Pleasure to have you on the show.
Hello there, Mac. How are you doing? It's a pleasure
Yeah,
to be
good.
here.
Yeah, no, it's lovely, and thank you so much for always joining. It's Sunday morning. It's sunny-ish, lots of clouds in the sky in the UK. Hopefully, it doesn't rain on me whilst we're doing this transmission. I'm outdoors. And Carlos is in Spain, so it's all good stuff. But yeah, look,
Except
it's
for the
been
weather here, because it's grey and miserable, unfortunately. But
Yeah,
there you
that's
are.
crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it's crazy, but look, we fight on. But look, it's been incredible. Euro 2020. That's what we're here to talk about, and Copa America. But look, just like I said on the tournament title, look, is it the best international tournament we've had for a while? What's your thoughts first about that, Carlos? Because it's been a long time since we've had an incredible international tournament, which is not predictable. Same old people doing what they do. We pretty much know who's going to win it. What's your thoughts on it?
Um, I, to be honest, have not enjoyed the last few big tournaments. I think the quality of football seemed to be going downhill. But that is something that I think about football in general. It's not just because of the big tournaments. And this one, however, I think has been exciting. We've seen attacking football, quick football, direct football. I'm not talking about long ball down the middle. I'm talking about a controlled game, but more direct.
Yeah.
And it's not so much the unpredictability of results, because, I mean, we have had unpredictability in the past. In the past World Cup, Germany didn't get out of the group, for instance, and didn't make it to the last 16. And we have had surprises. It's just that what I've noticed in this tournament is that the football that's been played is far more exciting, far quicker, far more direct than club football, for instance, and anything we've seen in international football in the last few years. The only team that seems to be wasting its time playing the ball about and giving 40 passes and staying in the same place is Spain.
Yeah.
Everyone else is trying to get a quick, direct route to goal. But as I said, not just by pumping balls into the middle. They are trying to filter balls through the defense, trying to play the ball into space, running from the second line and trying to get behind defenders. That's the way they're doing it. And that makes for exciting football. And it's been very enjoyable. And the best of the bunch so far has probably been the Portugal-Germany match.
Yeah, which we're going to talk about. It's been a wonderful time, and like you said, I mean, I agree with all of that. And it's been a long time that I've actually sat down and watched a full game in international football. It's been a very long time. Usually, it's quite slow pace. It's very predictable. You know, there's going to be one goal, but some of it has been absolutely incredible. So look, we should get into it. So first of all, obviously, because I'm in the UK and you know a lot about UK football, we should really talk about the game that everyone once sat down for, which was actually one of the worst games, actually, surprisingly, for the Euros so far. So England against Scotland. So first of all, what was your thought on firstly Gareth Southgate and some of his picks that he made?
There are some choices that I wouldn't have made, but then again, you know, I'm not the England manager. He's qualified. He's got experience. I would not play Sterling. You know that. I've talked about it in the past.
Yeah.
I not only is he not on good form, I also think that he's always been overrated throughout his career.
Okay.
Now, I think England have got good players. I think they've got better choices for his position. But overall, the problem, I think, is that I don't know how this affected the England camp and the England players. But the one of the main issues is that England seem to believe, when I say England, I mean England, not the team. I mean everyone in England, the press, the supporters, the football world in general in England seemed to believe that England had won the Euros before they started.
Indeed, yeah, they did.
There was a tendency towards that, and at least people thought they were going to have a great tournament. people did believe that this was a fantastic team. I mean, they might still go on and win it. I doubt it. I doubt it very much. But, in football, funny things, funny things happen. But I really do think that this team is not of the standard that a lot of people have been saying.
Yeah.
And for all the attacking flair and qualities that people have been talking about, everyone has been saying, got so many options up front. Fact is, England are not scoring goals. And
No.
I don't just mean against Scotland. The previous match, it was only 1-0. The previous friendlies were all 1-0. Funnily enough, I was saying that the problem is the defence. They're not conceding. I don't like the defence. I don't think it's very good, particularly in the central defensive area. But the fact is they haven't conceded. So that's a positive sign.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on it are down the same line. I personally am concerned with some of the picks that Gareth Southgate made. I've said it a million times, and people may not like this, but Gareth Southgate is a company man. He's a company man, and what I mean by that is that he's not going to ruffle any feathers after obviously the Sam Allardyce situation. He's just a nice guy, but he hasn't won anything, and realistically, his club career wasn't absolutely amazing or something to write home about. So that's my personal thoughts on the matter. He's gonna, no matter what happens in this situation, he's going to last surely to the World Cup, right? Surely they're not going to sack him because he got to the semis in the last World Cup. Obviously here they're probably going to get to the quarterfinals, maybe further. Be very unlikely though. So he's a nice guy. Secondly, that like we talked about offline, the golden era of football apparently is here again, Mark II, and we know what happened to the first one, right? I mean, they they had Lampard, they had Gerrard, they had everybody there, and even before that, they obviously had Adam, Seaman, and all the rest of them, Shearer, Wright, and yet they still haven't produced anything. No wins, always choking on penalties or something like that. What do you put your finger on? Is there any way that England can get to the kind of levels of Italy, for example, or even Germany, Portugal, all the teams that we know? France have been poor, but the kind of superpowers who've won things consistently.
It's very difficult, obviously, to reach those levels, and it usually seems to be the same old countries that do so. I'm a firm believer that football is atavistic, which means that the powerful nations might have bad patches, but they will come back and they will continue being powerful. By the same token, you sometimes get nations that were not strong, were not winners, and they might have very good phases where they will maybe compete well, maybe even win something, but eventually they will go back to being second division in comparison to the Germanys and the Italys. Spain, I think, is a perfect example. Spain dabbled with being top class by winning from 2008 to 2012, but that doesn't mean that they have suddenly become a Germany or suddenly become an Italy in historical terms. Now, the issue with England is that, and this happens in a lot of countries that are hopeful that their national team will end up winning something. You get a generation, and you see them in your league, you see them play for your clubs in European football, you see them do well, and people get very excited. And
they do.
Therefore, they start believing that will be translated into success with the national side. And it's not always the case, is it? I see it here in Spain, where they say, "Oh, we've got a fabulous side." Well, you saw them yesterday. They're not fabulous.
Yeah.
But they still believe that they will find reasons as to why they're not doing that well. It's not that the players aren't great, according to the media, according to supporters. They will find other excuses. One thing that countries will never do is admit that they are actually not quite good enough. See, that is one thing. Nobody will ever admit to that unless, you're Moldova. But most countries
North Macedonia.
Yeah. But obviously, England have got a good team. Obviously, they've got very good players. But are they of the necessary quality, individually and collectively as a team, to be able to actually go ahead and win this? Well, stranger things have happened. Greece won the Euros in 2004.
Yeah,
They were a
that's
great
right.
unit. They were a great unit, and they were working for each other perfectly. But the fact is that you would not put your money on England, even though, from what I hear, the bookies either made them favourites or second favourites before the tournament started.
Yeah, which is always down to the hype, I personally think. So to a man, look at the situation like you talked about with Scotland. What I found with Scotland, just looking back, was that they were hungry for it, hungry, hungry, hungry. Now, the thing about it is that I felt that England, and even we saw Harry Kane get taken off, right? We saw lack of energy. And now he may be carrying injury, we don't know his story, but I just felt that they just didn't want it enough. The Scottish people, and we've seen it in the Premiership, we've seen it in other leagues, where the team that's the hungriest are the team that's going to win. Even though they may not have the quality, because we know they don't have the quality because they didn't put in the back of the net. They had plenty of chances on Scotland to score. Ched Adams didn't do what he needed to do. I think he's at Southampton, isn't he? But the bottom line is that they weren't hungry enough. And that's my question to you. Do you think that the England team really are hungry enough to win this? Or they're just quite happy to go through the motions and go back to their clubs and sort out their transfer or whatever they need to do?
I think that is one of the explanations that people have been using for as long as I can remember. Whenever England don't do well, they say, the players aren't interested. They don't care about playing for England. I don't believe that. I don't believe
No?
that. I think everyone is just as hungry as each other. But it's convenient to say they're not hungry enough because the underlying message is they're good enough, and if they were hungry enough, they would win. And I hear that here in Spain.
Yeah.
You see, when with the national team, with Real Madrid, when Real Madrid don't win, it's usually, the players aren't trying. So the message is, if they were trying, they'd win everything.
It's a good point, actually. It's a very good point.
You see? But I don't think that's the case with England. For instance, when I was told that back in, was it South Africa 2010, that the England players didn't care, I pointed to the fact that John Terry did a torpedo and headed the ball on the ground when someone was going to kick it, just to get in the way of the shot with his head. Is that not caring? And yet people were saying that players didn't care enough. I don't believe they don't care enough. What I do believe is that Scotland and Scottish players have an extra motivation when they play England, especially at Wembley. The old enemy. They want to beat the old enemy. Now, before, they used to get a chance every other year with the home championships.
Yeah.
But since the home championships stopped in 1984, Scotland have only had 2 or 3 bites at the cherry. So it's now a very rare occurrence that they can go to Wembley and try to beat England. And so if they were really up for it way back in the day, imagine now when they don't get many chances to do so. For Scotland, it's a matter of huge pride to beat England in a way that they don't really feel when it comes to other countries, because obviously they're the neighbours, there's rivalry, and England have been more successful. So, of course, you want to put one over your local rivals, your neighbours.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, I think that there should be an annual thing. I think England against Scotland I think it's one of, now the result wasn't fantastic, but overall, it's something which I think would be great annually, or at least every other year, to play Scotland and not just once in a while. I thought it was that the build up to it and even the way it was played, you just didn't know who's going to win. And I thought that was something which, but the broadcasters are looking for entertainment. This was fantastic entertainment. My personal thoughts, anyway. But
yeah, well, the England-Scotland meetings were more or less level pegging, with maybe a slight advantage to Scotland. It's only been in the last 20, 30 years when Scottish football has regressed that England have gained an advantage. I think England have got 49 wins to Scotland's 41 or something like that. But in the last 15 meetings, England have won 10, Scotland 2, and there have been 3 draws. So that really tells you what has happened since the days that Scotland had fantastic football teams.
Yeah. Well, they're virtually most of the team was part of Liverpool, the Liverpool winning side that won everything, really. So, yeah, that makes sense. So, look, what do you think of this guy, Gilmore? I mean, this guy can't get, well, he played a little bit at Chelsea, but obviously a Chelsea man. He thought he was going to go on transfer, and well, on loan, and then he stayed. But what did you think of his performance?
Well, he is a talented player. I think he's got a different type of quality to a lot of other players, but he needs to play regularly.
Yeah.
He can be influential. He can see passes the way other players don't. He can keep the ball. But I do think that he should go out on loan because he's not going to get a game at Chelsea, I don't think, next season. He'll only play League Cup matches and he'll come on for 10, 15 minutes at the end of games. I think next season will be a repetition of this season for him at Chelsea, especially with what Chelsea have done with the players they have. And Chelsea will probably sign 1 or 2 more players as well. So his chances of getting in the team are limited. And I think he needs regular football. He's young, he needs to compete, and I think he should go somewhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, the fact of the matter is this, that Chelsea are going to want to go for the league. They won the Champions League now, so they're going to want to go for the league. There's big talk of them getting Haaland, because obviously Man United were the other people involved, but they obviously spending all of their transfer fee, aren't they, on Sancho. I don't know if you've heard, they put a new bid, 75 million with add-ons to make up to 80. So even more than that. So look, it's silly numbers, but surely that's going to be their marquee player. So with all that going on, it's very hard for him to get. Very, very hard, I would have thought. But we'll see what happens. But look, it's been absolutely fantastic. There's been some fantastic games. There's been some average games. France haven't been great. I mean, we've seen them. They were my team. They were my people. They were my guys. But I can't deny how rubbish they've been. They just haven't been great. The goal that they let in yesterday, and then obviously they scored an equaliser, and then couldn't get it done. They couldn't get it done. So whilst obviously Italy are looking scary and imperious, but look, let's talk about the game, which probably was one of the biggest highlights of so far, I think, of the whole tournament. And that was yesterday, and that was it was Portugal, the holders, against Germany. So what did you make of the game? It was incredible.
Well, Portugal just couldn't compete, could they? Germany were powerful. They pressed high. They won the ball back early. They moved the ball very quickly. This was the best Germany performance I have seen in a very long time. I don't like Joachim Low as a coach.
Okay.
I don't, because he's changed Germany's footballing identity.
Right.
Germany do not play like Germany. They did yesterday. He's gone back. I think the reason why they look better was because they look more like a German football team.
Right.
Whereas Joachim Low has been obsessed with copying Spain.
Right.
And if you actually, and you know, countries have to keep to their own particular style. Once you try to copy someone else, it's just a copy.
Yeah.
And if you look at Germany's results, yeah, they won the World Cup in 2014. But aside from that, you know, it's a big achievement, obviously. But aside from that, the results have not been great under Joachim Low.
No.
They've underachieved. Considering what Germany usually do, they've underachieved. Now, yesterday, they looked more like a German team that combined physical qualities with technical qualities. Now, the only thing I would say about this Germany is that they're playing without a centre forward. They're playing without a centre forward, and So far, so good. It's working well. They did lose the first game, but they didn't play badly. I thought they dominated France most of the time.
Yeah.
But in this particular game, they didn't give Portugal a chance. Now, Portugal were fortunate enough to take the lead early on, even though Germany were crushing them.
Yeah.
But eventually, you know, the football that Germany were playing told, and they started scoring goals for fun. I'm just wondering whether they can sustain this. I'm wondering whether they can keep winning without a proper centre forward. Because I'm a fan of the centre forward. I know lots of teams have opted to play without one.
Yeah.
In the last few years.
Yeah.
Well, it's always happened, even going back to the 1940s and 50s. It's not something new, but a lot more teams have adopted it.
Yeah.
But yes, I thought Kimmich was brilliant on the right flank. The Atalanta left wing back, whose name escapes me right now, I thought he was great. He was very effective all along. And Tony Cross, the whole team, I thought, was up to a very high standard. And as I said, Portugal were overrun. We didn't see much of Portugal, even though Portugal played with two defensive midfielders. They weren't able to contain Germany in midfield, and all they could try to do was play on the break, which they were rarely able to do in an effective manner, because they were just second best all along.
Yeah, no, it was a lovely game of football, and I agree with all that. And look, I think that Portugal still looks strong. I would say they still look, obviously, they obviously got overrun by an incredible German side. But like you said, the Germany that we saw yesterday may just be a one-off. We could see a completely different Germany in the next game. So they're both very strong, very still strong contenders, and we'll see what happens. But if you think about it, okay, so there's them and France, obviously the three big teams. Who do you think is going to go through in the group? Or do you think all three will go through as the third best loser or something?
Portugal could go out because they've got France next. And if they lose to France, they're on 3 points.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that with 3 points, you will qualify as a best third. Probably on 3 points, you will not qualify as one of the best third teams. 4 of the 6 best thirds will go through. Now, Germany, I think, have turned the corner, because I liked the way they played against France. They were, to a certain extent, very similar to what they did yesterday. The only thing is that France on the break are deadly, because they've got Mbappe with his pace. They've got Griezmann. Benzema isn't fast, but he's got the quality to give good passes forward to players like Mbappe. So France could have actually won by a greater margin, even though Germany, I thought, dominated most of the game and we're looking good. But now this win against Portugal will give the Germans a lot of confidence, and it will prove to them that what they're doing is right, and that they are on the right track. So I think they're going to go from strength to strength. I get the impression that Germany might win the group, and France will be second, maybe, and Portugal third.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It'll be Portugal going out the holders, eh? But then again, we've seen that all before. So let's see what happens. But I must make a special mention to Czech. Is he Czech Republic, right? I know you said many times, well, once actually, sorry, that he is someone who has a fantastic career. Not exactly set the world alight, but I love his grit and determination. He got smashed in the face, and he carried on, and he scored the penalty with bits up his nose, and we've obviously seen him before score. Any change of mind there? What's your thoughts on him?
No. Leopard doesn't change his spots. He's He is what he is. He is what he is. I mean, he hasn't really done anything in the matches. It's just that he scored from halfway against Scotland,
Yeah,
and
scored
yeah,
again, but 2 goals to be fair.
yeah, no. The first goal was a good goal,
Yep.
good
Okay.
header. Second one was great, but 99 times out of 100 will not go in. And then he scored a penalty.
Okay. All right.
and
All right.
and he hasn't really shone during the matches. No, he's the same player he was. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he's not going to set the world alight.
Okay. We'll see. Well, hopefully, I'm for his, career. I hope he proves you wrong, and we'll
Me
see.
too.
We'll
Me
see.
too. Me too. Me too. Because uh, on the one hand, I like I would like the player to do well physically. He's great.
Yeah, it's
Um,
huge.
technically,
Strong.
he's not bad on the ground for a big player. And another reason why I would like him and his team to do well is I've always been a fan of Czech football.
Right.
Probably because I was a kid in the 70s when I saw the great Czechoslovakia team that won the 1976 Euros. I remember the old Slovan Bratislava team of the 1970s as well, playing in the European Cup with great players, Slovakian players. Most of them are Slovaks, not Czechs in that case, but it was one country then.
Yeah.
But technically, they've always been good, and don't forget they've been World Cup finalists twice.
Yeah.
Czechoslovakia. People
Yeah.
forget that,
They've
World Cup
yeah,
finalists twice and Euro winners once and Euro finalists once. So they're
yeah,
no
against
mugs.
Germany. Yeah.
They are no mugs.
No, they're not. They're not. And look, hopefully they do well. Hopefully they do well. So look, anybody watching, thank you for watching. First of all, would like to or listening, would like to hear your thoughts on the Euros. Leave some comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. But we need to move on. Let's talk about Copa America. So first of all, let's talk about the situation there. First of all, it's in Brazil, and well, the COVID situation there is nothing short of rampant. So, what's your thoughts? Obviously, it was supposed to be in other countries, but it got moved. Was it Argentina and Colombia? But it got moved. And what's your thoughts now on the situation now? Firstly, has it been a success? I know I saw the fanfare in the opening ceremony, and the games have been played. But what's your thoughts on the whole situation, the matter? And for anybody just listening, Carlos has got Uruguayan background, so we'll talk about his game in a minute.
The tournament shouldn't have been played. It shouldn't have started. It was moved from, Colombia first renounced. They gave up on organizing the tournament. Then Argentina did because of COVID. And it was moved to a country that has a worse COVID record than Argentina.
Yeah.
And you've got to point to the Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro, who always said that COVID was just like a cold. He didn't.
Crazy.
He didn't order any kind of confinement, any kind of lockdown. No masks were obligatory. They did not adopt the measures that most of the world did. And the result is that they have over 500,000 dead. There was a protest yesterday in Brazil against the government's handling of the COVID situation. So in these circumstances, it's wrong, I think, that the Copa America should be taking place. Now, the matches, yes, they're being played. Venezuela had 12 players who tested positive for COVID before they played Brazil. And the matches are being played behind closed doors. So all in all, I think they should have just said, we can't go ahead. Just give up on this one and concentrate on the next one when hopefully the situation, not just in South America, but in the rest of the world, will be better.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that we know, we've talked about it in many episodes. The fact of the matter is this, that everything is money driven, right? No money involved, then if it was just like nothing involved, no sponsors, nothing, people want to get paid, and there's pressure on them to get it done. Now, obviously, they couldn't do it last year, but this year they're doing it because there's lots of money involved. It's almost like Euros. You could have thought, oh yeah, if it was just a nice normal situation, just knock on the head. Even though it's been fantastic, I've loved it, but it's all money driven. Just like the whole thing we saw with Ronaldo, with the bottles of Coca-Cola, removing them and saying drink water, and then everybody being told if you do that again, you're going to get fined. And then we hear the company man, Gareth Southgate, say, look, Coca-Cola help us with, sponsorship and stuff like that. Everything has got to be dealt with in the right way. And I understand it. And I've got no problem with that. Copa America is happening because of money, but the situation is difficult, right? It's difficult. But, has there been great football? What's your thoughts on the actual football? Let's focus on the football.
Sadly, and I say this as a South American, the South American national sides are lagging behind the European teams. Okay. Tactically, I think the coaches there are way behind. You don't see anywhere near the dynamic football, the compact teams on the pitch, where their lines very close together. You don't see teams able to break down opposing defenses the way we're seeing in the Euros. It's slower, it's ponderous, and it's nowhere near as entertaining. Also, you must remember that they haven't had the right type of preparation either, the teams. The European teams have had better preparation for these Euros. But no, I do think that there needs to be a bit of a tactical revolution in South America. And I think coaches should be observing very closely and studying the Euros to try to learn from them and try to incorporate some of the things that are being done by teams this side of the Atlantic to national sides the other side of the Atlantic.
Yeah, no, and it's look, there's some absolutely fantastic players who a lot of them play in Europe. Let's be honest. We've got like in that picture, we got obviously Messi, Barcelona, Suarez, Atletico, obviously Neymar, PSG, and obviously the rest carry on. But I don't actually know where the other two are, but that's all right. But a lot of them play in Europe, so. And I hope literally that they're learning the stuff and people are looking at the Euros and getting something out of it. But I still think that there's been some interesting games. Your game, especially Argentina, Uruguay. What did you make of the situation? 1-0 loss. I saw the highlights and it looked like you could have got the equaliser at least, but it didn't quite come together.
Well, this I'd like to point out is after the England-Scotland rivalry is the oldest rivalry in world football.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I actually think there are only two international derbies in the world. England, Scotland, and Uruguay, Argentina. Wow, there are many other big games. There are big games such as Germany, Italy, Brazil, Argentina. But when it comes to what is regarded as a local derby, local rivalry, cultural, traditional and sporting rivalry, then England, Scotland and Uruguay, Argentina are unmatched. Now, what can I say about Uruguay? We're going through a terrible phase. Terrible. Okay. I think the era of Tavares as coach has run its course.
Okay.
Sadly, the Uruguayan Football Association will not do anything. He will remain there until he decides to leave. And it doesn't look like he wants to leave. Now, he's done a very good job for Uruguay over the years. But as I said, it's run its course. We need a change. We need to evolve and modernize our football, which, to be honest, with Tavares has never been great.
Okay.
It's usually been just get the ball up quickly to Cavani and Suarez. But when they were younger, they could actually do something. But now Suarez is very, very unfit. He's slow. He's lost his agility. You've got to give him a clear goal scoring chance for him to take it. Now, the
Well, I
team
saw him be
doesn't.
trying acrobatic. One thing I like that I saw him try and do an
Yeah,
acrobatic.
yeah. It was
Scissor
like
kick.
me trying to be acrobatic. Yeah.
You probably would have done better. It looked terrible.
Yeah. Uruguay have not scored a goal in 4 matches.
Oh no!
And
Oh,
not only
wow,
that,
that's bad.
we haven't even looked like scoring in those 4 matches. You see, the team does not move properly on the pitch. There is very little movement, which means that the team rarely manages to achieve any overloads in attack. On the contrary, whenever a player, a Uruguay player, receives the ball in the opposition's half, normally it's in a very tight situation because other teams close them down quicker than the Uruguayan players move in order to find space. So everything is slow, it's cumbersome. Because of that lack of movement, whenever they try to play the ball forward, it's normally intercepted, and there is very little accuracy in the passing, and there doesn't seem to be a game plan. There doesn't seem to be an idea of how you should attack and break down the opposition's defense. And to tell you the truth, with the players that Uruguay have, most of the other countries do not have the players of the quality that Uruguay has. And yet, Uruguay don't know what to do with them. Well, the sad thing is that probably with the best striking partnership in the world for the last few years, Suarez Cavani, we haven't done enough to give them the chances to win matches for us. I think we've wasted the Cavani Suarez years.
Right.
We have wasted because had we played more attacking football with better quality service, Uruguay should have done and would have done probably much better. Now, the fact that we lost to Argentina is very worrying because, to be fair, this Argentina side is not going to frighten anyone.
No.
It's just a mediocre side. The only reason you would know they're Argentina is because of their shirts. But they're not great. You shouldn't just play this Argentina team. You should beat this Argentina team. And we didn't, which is extra worrying. Coming off a draw against Venezuela in the World Cup qualifiers, and that Venezuelan team was the worst I've seen ever. And then before that, we drew 0-0 against Paraguay, and before that, we lost 2-0 to Brazil, but we lost at home, and that just should not happen. Historically, we do not lose at home to Brazil. But in the last few years, and under Tavares, because he is more concerned about nullifying the opposition than in trying to put a team that can go out and win the match.
Yeah.
He's more concerned with that. So therefore, our attacking options are practically nil.
Yeah, it's a shame, really. Like you said, Cavani still an exceptional player. We see him in the Premier League. Suarez just moved from Barcelona, moved to Atletico Madrid with other players there, obviously, as well, and won the league. So it's just we know that both of them are exceptional players, and we saw how Argentina won the World Cup. They were horrendous. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame, but look. Hopefully things will change. But my final thoughts on the Copa America. So who's looking like more likely to win the whole thing at the moment? Is it still Brazil?
Oh, Brazil. 1, they're at home. 2, They've played 6 matches in the World Cup qualifiers and won 6. They've played 2 in the Copa America, won both. They are technically and tactically ahead of the rest. And they are closer to Europe than the rest of the South American teams.
Yeah.
So they should be able to win this without much trouble.
Okay.
You know, when Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay meet each other, anything can happen usually because they are the 3 big teams in South America, and there's a fly here. That's very annoying. Anything can happen, and because of the rivalry, sometimes the team that's doing badly ends up coming out on top and winning. So you never know, but logic would say that Brazil should win this.
Okay. All right, good stuff. And I think that's a good place to finish. Look, I'm now also, just going back to the Euros, I'm now in your camp as far as Italy. So is it 39 games unbeaten?
29
games. Yeah, 29 games unbeaten. They don't concede. And obviously they got Wales, but you know both teams should. Well, Italy are going to go through, but Wales should go through. So that's my thoughts on that. And like I said, Brazil for the Copa America. But look, we're going to keep talking about this throughout the week, and obviously this time next week as well. There's going to be some exciting games coming up, and we're getting to the kind of business end of things in the group stage. So there should be some exciting games ahead. So thank you very much. Any final thoughts from you, Carlos?
Well, I would say that Italy are going to play a second-string team today against Wales.
Okay.
They will play their reserves. If they don't, it'll be foolish. I thought Mancini kept Locatelli and Barella on the pitch for far too long in their last game. The game was won, and you could see how tired those players were. This is a long tournament, you see. Italy are playing an exhausting style of football. Will they last the pace? I hope so. But Mancini has to be smarter when it comes to rotating the team. And the final thing I would say is don't rule France out, because they don't play attractive football, but they know how to win matches. And on the break, they can destroy most teams. So they will be there or thereabouts. They are a very powerful team, very difficult to break down. They've not played attractive football for years, but they've been oh yeah, I mean, when you think back to old French teams of the past, this team is just ugly to watch, but they grind out results.
Yeah, that's all that counts.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for joining, Carlos, and thank you for anybody who's joined us. Thank you, as always, for your expert opinion, Carlos. It's always been a pleasure. You're a legend, and we love you on the show. So, and thank
it's
you
only because he loved me, Malcolm.
That's right, exactly. That's true. Good point. But thank you so much, and
likewise as well, I should say.
Thank you. And anybody who's watched, thanks for watching or listening. Leave some comments. Let us know your thoughts on the Euros 2020, even though it's 2021, and Copa America, which again was delayed for a year, and obviously the situation in Brazil. It's crazy. But look, we'll be here every week talking about these things until they're finished, and we'll talk about the Premier League and probably the Championship as well. Now that Fulham are now in the Championship, unfortunately got relegated. So thank you for watching. Thank you for watching the Football Fan Show, and leave some comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.